Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Audio Fanfics and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto was trapped in his mindscape and bound to the female Kyūbi, Naruto times Hinata times Kurama times Naruto, Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Is your master as big a pervert as you? Naruto yelled at his black afroed companion. No, he's a bigger pervert than me, but I'm still in training. Hensuke replied. He calls himself the god of perverts. Naruto grinned. I'm gonna call him Ero Sennin. Neji face-palmed. This was not going to end well. He just knew it. Master Jiraiya, we're here. Hensuke sang, skidding to a stop outside a hotel. A cranky-looking old man stuck his head out of a window on the first floor and hissed, "Quiet, you baka. And bring him up here." "Okay, master," Hensuke quipped, and began walking up the wall, lugging the protesting Naruto with him. As they climbed through the window, the mob of angry women from earlier came running past, still chasing the clone. The clone looked absolutely traumatized, and kept sprinting, screaming, "Help me," until it was out of sight. Naruto just shrugged, and then tripped over Hensuke, who was bowing to his master, and then Neji vaulted in and hit Jiraiya straight in the balls with an 8 trigrams palm heel strike, doubling the poor sod over and leaving him rolling on the floor, whimpering in a voice as high-pitched as Akamaru's. "Why did you do that?" he whined, and Neji just glared at him, Byakugan blazing. "You kidnapped Naruto, without realizing he had a Hyuga with him. I am Neji, of the Hyuga main house, and I am sworn to protect Naruto and his girlfriends with my life." Neji mentally slapped himself. Why did I tell this perv that Naruto had multiple girlfriends? He berated his own clumsiness. The second girls were mentioned, Jiraiya sprang up and began pumping Naruto for information. "How many girls do you have? Where do you live? Are any of them younger than you? Do you have with them? How well can they hold their liquor? Do any of them have big? When do you leave them unattended? How many times have you had with them? What size are there? Do you like? Whose are the best? Do you make them call you master? How about you send me one of them for my research?" Jiraiya would have continued probing into Naruto's private life, but the blonde formed a Rasengan in his hand and balanced it on the tip of his index finger, spinning it like a basketball. Naruto formed a Rasengan in his palm and hefted it. "How about you quit pestering me about my personal life, and eat this?" he roared, hurling the chakra ball at the pervy sage. Jiraiya caught it, but just as he was preparing to throw it back, it blew up in his hands and punched him out through a wall, head first. Master," Hensuke wailed, rushing to the hole and peering through. He froze, as a large dose of killing intent struck him. Shivering, he heard Neji slither up behind him and hiss, "You mean, you only wanted to capture Naruto so your perverted boss could grill him about his..." Exclamation mark. "One of the girls Naruto is dating happens to be my cousin, and if I find out from any of his girls that you've been bothering her, or them, what I'm going to do to you now will seem like heaven." 8 trigrams mountain crusher. Before Hensuke could twitch, Neji hit him hard, several times in a split second, and then slammed both palms into the small of Hensuke's back, shooting him straight through the hole Jiraiya left by, into the sky. A faint shout could be heard from the distance. Team Jiraiya's blasting off again. The Konoha Archives, Shinobi meeting. "What? You can't be serious," Naruto yelled. "You can't seriously want me to go looking for some legendary ninja chick with the pervy sage?" Iruka breathed deeply, and then used his big head jutsu. "Naruto, you'll do what you're told. You're going to look for Tsunade, and you're going to do it now." Naruto sulked, but agreed, if he could bring a couple people with him. "I don't trust that white-haired creepoid. Who knows what he'll get up to?" Iruka looked to Kurenai, Asuma, and Kakashi. They nodded. "Naruto, you can bring 2 people with you, but you'll have to choose later. We've run out of time now, and I need to oversee the academy. Asuma, you're going to assign the other genin work, and Kakashi, you're going to help with the rebuilding of the Gate of Branches. Kurenai asked, but what am I to do? Iruka thought, and then smiled. Kurenai, you'll be going with Naruto, as an observer. Judging by his performance in the Chunin exams, we may need to promote him to Jonin. You'll be going along to oversee how he works as a commander of this mission. Naruto, you have been given overall command, so show us what you've got. Naruto bowed, and then grabbed Kurenai by the hand. Come on, Kurenai-san. I want you to help me pick which members of my clan I should take with me. So saying, the boy dragged the brunette Jonin out of the village archives and over to his clan compound. Kurenai was astounded at the size of Naruto's new home. Her own clan, the Uehi, had an estate that was only half the size of this one, so she was a little apprehensive about entering. As Naruto opened the huge ironwood door that kept the compound sealed, a bell chimed nearby. What was that? Kurenai asked. Ah, it's nothin', Naruto sighed. The girls just like to know when I'm home. Before he could finish his sentence, he was flattened by Hinata, Tenten, Kurama and Anko, who smothered him with hugs and sloppy kisses. Anko swooped down to capture his lips in a heated makeout session, breaking off when she noticed the Jonin standing nearby, looking stunned. Hey, Nai-chan, what's going on? Where've you been? She hollered, a string of saliva still bridging her and Naruto's mouths. Kurenai blushed, and then shook her head. For a moment, she'd felt jealous of Naruto. He'd found love, and lots of it, while she, a fully grown, mature kunoichi, lived in a small apartment on her own. Ha! I wonder if I'll ever find the kind of love Naruto has. Wait, is that one of my students? What's Hinata doing kissing him? And why aren't they fighting and accusing him of cheating on them? It was all too much for the Genjutsu mistress, and she closed her eyes and folded. The last thought running through her mind before unconsciousness claimed her was, maybe, Naruto can love me, too. Kurenai-chan. Wake up, Kurenai-chan. Naruto stood by, watching Anko trying to revive Kurenai. As Kurenai stirred, Anko knelt by her side and smiled gently. Yes, it's true. Naruto made me his lover. I'm still sore from the other day, actually. She glared over at Naruto, who grinned and rubbed the back of his head. Gangbang no jutsu, Anko replied, and Kurenai flushed scarlet. Wait, he has the chakra to perform that jutsu. Anko winked. And more, honey. Kurenai's face flared red again. Naruto hemmed and hawed, but in the end, the two girls going with him were Anko and Tenten, with Neji refusing to stay behind, so he came along too. The Gate of Leaves. Okay, we're ready to go to find Tsunade, pervy sage. Naruto called out to the two bandaged figures waiting for them, who both looked very sorry for themselves. The small group headed out of Konoha, intent on finding and bringing back Tsunade Senju, to be the next Hokage. Later that night, Naruto and his squad made camp in a circle of fallen stones. While Jiraiya and Hensuke gathered firewood, Naruto tried to set up tents, but Anko seemed to have other ideas. She kept pressing her chest against his back and purring in his ear, bending over in front of him, and sometimes lightly spanking herself. Naruto, now somewhat exasperated, asked, "What are you doing, Anko-chan?" Anko looked at him and smiled innocently. Why, just trying to help you pitch a tent, Naruto-kun. Kurenai just sat and watched them, a faint blush steaming on her pinkened cheeks. Jiraiya was watching and listening, writing feverishly in his notebook, with Hensuke crouched next to him, snapping pictures with alarming rapidity. Unfortunately, the clicking of the camera drew Tenten's attention, and she hurled a barrage of kunai and shuriken at the source of the sound. Hensuke crawled away, scratched and bloody, while Jiraiya took the full force of the volley and slumped unconscious against the bole of a tree. Hensuke whispered, "It was so worth it," before falling into insensibility. Night. Naruto and the rest sat around a fire, talking in low voices. Naruto was asking about Tsunade, her appearance, habits, techniques, and family. Jiraiya spoke at length, and told Naruto about Shizune, a young maiden that Tsunade had trained and who still followed her teacher around as an assistant. Naruto was interested to learn that Tsunade was the creator of a jutsu that made the user appear much younger, and decided to work on a technique that might complement it. Finally, after a good 2 of study and adjustment, Naruto finished his jutsu, and rolled the scroll up and stored it away safely. Anko started pestering him to show her the technique, but he whispered, "It's a gift for Tsunade-san. I think it'll be a real hit with her, but you'll have to wait to see it in action." Naruto, Tenten and Anko retired to their tent, and Kurenai's nose started to bleed as the red-eyed genjutsu mistress began fantasizing about what might happen within those 4 fragile walls. Jiraiya slid close and whispered, "I bet you want to see what's going on, don't you? You want to see your friend getting it good and hard, I could help you, for a price." Kurenai glared at the white-haired pervert, and then proceeded to clobber the hell out of him. But Jiraiya had only been a distraction. Hensuke had snuck up to the tent flap, and partially opened it, stuck his head inside, and snapped off several shots of Anko, Tenten and Naruto in various states of undress. Kurenai grabbed his ankles, hoisted him into the air, and began beating him with a stick, then tied the unfortunate pair to a tree. From inside the tent, Kurenai could hear Anko moaning, "Ooh, you're such a baaad boy, Naru-kun," followed by Tenten's soft purrs of, "Yes, that's it, right there, oh my god." Some screaming, and a lot of panting. Anko's face appeared in the gap in the tent door, her purple hair severely tousled. "Phew. Okay, Nai-chan, you're up." Kurenai blinked. "What do you mean, I'm up? Oh, ooh oh." Anko grinned, before reaching out and ushering the nervous Kurenai into Naruto's tent, which by now was beginning to smell of and sweat. Tenten lay sprawled across Naruto's lap, butt naked, and he was stroking her hair tenderly as she slept. Kurenai's heart softened at the sweet sight, and gulped, a little nervously. Naruto," she whispered. "Yes, Kurenai-san. What can I help you with?" Naruto replied, making no effort to hide his blatant. Despite her best efforts, Kurenai's gaze was drawn to Naruto's, all 7 inches of it, standing proudly to attention, apparently undiminished, even after what looked like 2 rounds of passionate. Kurenai blushed crimson, and then fell to her knees. "Naruto, would it be okay if I joined your group?" Naruto started. "Kurenai-san, you mean, you want to be part of my harem?" "Well, I do like you, but I can't let you in if you just want. I need you to be honest. Are you just trying to get laid?" Kurenai shook her head frantically. "No, I'm not like that," she blurted. Naruto smiled, and Kurenai gingerly smiled back. "Kurenai-chan, you are now one of my precious people, so come here and kiss me, my beautiful red-eyed enchantress." Naruto husked, and Kurenai fell upon him, making out with her new lover like she was drowning and he was air. Naruto opened his mouth, and their tongues danced in the space between their lips. Anko sat in a corner and slowly stroked her, lost in the sight of her friend finding someone who truly cared for her. Kurenai and Naruto lay next to each other, cuddling. Anko had long since climaxed and fallen asleep, but Naruto was still talking quietly with his new girlfriend. He'd found out a lot about Kurenai. She was a member of the Uehi clan, and was naturally talented with genjutsu. She'd been very delicate as a child, but had been sought after when she hit her teens. She was only 27, but had never had a serious boyfriend. Naruto felt a little pity for the young Jonin, and started rubbing her back, before kissing her on the lips. Her arms wrapped around his back, tightening in surprise when she felt his hands caressing her firm, C-cup. As his fingers brushed over Kurenai let out a strangled gasp, feeling a gush of wetness between her thighs. Naruto's hand slipped down, stroking across her vaginal region, sending shivers up her spine. "Ooh, daddy," Kurenai breathed, then froze when she realized what she'd said, then colored. "Daddy, Naruto purred, and Kurenai nodded, ashamed. "You see, I've always been a little childish, so I often wished for a father figure to be with me. In time, it turned into a daddy complex. Does that disturb you, Naru-kun? Naruto shook his head. Not at all, Kur-chan. In fact, it's fine if you call me daddy, 'cause I'm hoping to have loads of kids. Kurenai blushed under the, and then moaned, "Ooh, don't stop daddy, it feels so good. Keep touching me there, daddy." Kurenai kept moaning and panting cutely, sounding just like a young girl, until she squealed, and came all over Naruto's fingers, and she watched in a daze as he slowly licked her juices off his hand. "Wow, daddy, that was great," she chirped. "Now, will you lick me in my special place?" She yelped as Naruto lunged forward, forked her panties aside, and tucked in with a passion. "Oh, daddy, so good. Your tongue, so long, so wide. Kya, that feels good." Naruto hummed into Kurenai's snatch, and she moaned, looking down the length of her slender body, and then started gently squeezing and tugging her own. "Oh, right there, daddy, lick my little more, please, daddy." Kurenai cried, begging for more, and Naruto gave her all she could handle as he feasted on her tight pink with its sparse brown hair. Kurenai was fast reaching her limits, and she wailed in pleasure as Naruto brought her to her second orgasm of the night. She lay flat on her back and panted, slowly catching her breath. "Oh, wow, that was amazing," she sighed. Naruto grinned, and retorted, "You aren't done yet, are you, Kur-chan? I mean, I still have to punish my dirty little girl." As he said this, he flipped her over onto her front, and she lay on his lap with her butt in the air, anticipating what she thought was coming. She didn't have to wait long. Swish crack. The first blow landed square on her right cheek, and she jolted in shock and a little pain. "Ow," she whined. Swish crack. A second strike hit the left one, and she whimpered. Swish crack. 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 The spanks kept falling on Kurenai's tender buttocks, and soon they turned a pale red from the force of the swats. "Ow, ow, ow, daddy," she whimpered, and he stopped spanking her and gently rubbed the red patches on her behind, slowly soothing away the burn, leaving only a pleasant throbbing in her lower regions. Kurenai wiped away the tears that had formed in her eyes during her punishment, and hugged Naruto, smiling tenderly at him, telling him that she held no grudge. Naruto's left hand snuck around her waist, and he slid his index finger between her butt cheeks and probed the rim of her, and she stiffened, before relaxing her muscles and he slid inside. Shuddering at the sudden intrusion, Kurenai moistened again, and she moaned, quickly, "Daddy, put your hard thing inside your little girl. I'm so wet, and I need you to put this inside me and give me your baby." Naruto bucked his hips gently, and his hard rubbed against Kurenai's opening, teasing her, and she panted like a bitch in heat, grinding harder against him, inadvertently sliding further back onto Naruto's finger. Naruto finally gave in to Kurenai's whining and pleading, and placed the head of his against her slit, pushing in an inch at a time. Kurenai held her breath, feeling fuller than ever before. She'd had bigger, but they hadn't felt this good. She realized that the satisfying feeling was love. Naruto eased himself in, until he bottomed out inside Kurenai. She was so tight, and so warm, that he could restrain himself, and began thrusting lightly into her. Kurenai's eyes rolled back as her lover's monster meat penetrated her, and his finger anally violated her butt, and she started moving her on hips, slamming herself down on Naruto's prick, riding him like a true cowgirl, already building up to the next orgasm. "Oh, oh, oh, so full, so hot, so good." Kurenai wailed, and stopped short of her orgasm, pulling Naruto's out of her, and turned onto all fours, moaning, "Take me in the butt, daddy, screw your dirty little girl's butt and make her scream." She got her wish, as Naruto positioned himself and rammed his entire length straight into the depths of her anus. Kurenai's scream woke Tenten, who sleepily latched onto one of Kurenai's hanging, dangling just above her head. Kurenai moaned, cradling Tenten's head as the bun-haired Kunoichi suckled. Naruto started pumping Kurenai's plump, purred with relish. He wasn't one for traveling the Hershey Highway, but he did love treating his girls the way they liked, so he was more than happy enough to try anything once or twice. Kurenai's sensitive being sucked was driving her slowly toward the edge, coupled with a massive in her butt, leaving her teetering on the edge. Naruto put his hands together, and made the signs of ox, rat, bird, and dog. No jutsu, he muttered, and a second sprouted just above his original. Pulling out, he shoved his reel into Kurenai's, and the second one straight back up her butt. Kurenai felt 2 stiff rods inside her, and knew what he'd done. With that in mind, the newly liberated, Jonin came her brains out. Naruto grunted as he emptied both balls into her womb, and Tenten captured Kurenai's lips in a searing kiss. Kurenai fell limp next to the girl, spent and full of semen, her face bearing the now familiar, stupid, look that Naruto loved making his girls wear. Back in Konoha, Kurama stopped making the beds, and listened. She could sense something, but it took her a minute to work it out. When she did, her face flushed, and then turned pale. Oh, Naruto's going to be so shocked when he finds out, she said, and Hinata turned to her. What do you mean, Naruto's going to be shocked? Kurama shook her head. She couldn't tell the poor girl just yet. Oh, I just forgot to buy any instant ramen, and Naruto will be back in a couple of days. I'd better get some tomorrow. Hinata accepted the excuse, and the two started making the beds again. But Kurama couldn't help thinking what would happen next. Kurama shook her head. She couldn't tell the poor girl just yet. Oh, I just forgot to buy any instant ramen, and Naruto will be back in a couple of days. I'd better get some tomorrow. Hinata accepted the excuse, and the two started making the beds again. But Kurama couldn't help thinking of what would happen next. Neji, who'd been on guard during the early morning shift, had prepared breakfast for everyone, and waited to serve until they were all awake. Just as the last stragglers were seated, Tora the cat came streaking through the clearing, upsetting bowls, plates, and glasses. Hensuke jumped up and gave chase, following the deranged mammal round in circles, up trees, down trees, and so on until he finally seized him by the tail. Hensuke had spent a very uncomfortable night tied to a tree, and was more than a little in the mood to inflict pain and/or embarrassment on something, and Tora was in his sights. Grabbing the spitting feline, he grabbed his boom box and played a familiar tune, Keyboard Cat. Bouncing the enraged beast, Hensuke bobbed Tora's paws in time to the music. Tora tipped his head back, glaring at the dark-skinned ninja with open hatred. When Hensuke turned off the music, he relaxed his grip, and Tora pounced. RRRGGGH. GETTITOFF Getty toff. It's on my face, it's on my face. Hensuke screamed as the livid cat clawed and ripped, before Naruto, who'd been sitting and laughing on a tree stump, acted. He grabbed the howling cat by the scruff of his neck, bunged it into a sack, and hurled it into a tree. Hensuke stopped flailing about, and dropped his hands. He looked like someone had taken 11 pounds of hamburger mince and thrown it at his head. Wow! He moaned pitifully. Naruto tugged the bleeding boy to his feet. Ah, it's not too bad, he said dismissively. Really? Nah, you look like the back end of a baboon. Naruto chuckled. After Neji salvaged what he could and the team broke their fast, the whole group made good speed, reaching Tanzaku town early in the afternoon. Too busy with looking around, no one noticed a small figure, wearing black robes with red clouds embroidered on them, and a swirly orange mask. Oh, boy, they're here. I'll go tell Leader Sama now, and then maybe he'll let me join them. Toba's a good boy. That evening, Hensuke had spent a long time whinging about that damn cat, and how Tora will rue the day it messed up my good looks. Eventually, Naruto and the others left him to his misery and went cruising the bars in Tanzaku, looking for Tsunade. Hensuke, on the other hand, began to grin like a devil. He'd thought of the perfect way to pay back Tora. Hensuke, what the hell have you done? Naruto howled when he saw the hotel room. There was fur everywhere. Fur on the bed, fur in the lampshade, fur on the carpet, fur in the cupboards, piles and piles of fur. And in the middle of it all sat Tora, shaved completely bald, and Hensuke, grinning like a loon. Oh, hi guys. I just thought I'd get my revenge on the cat. Hensuke smirked. Naruto was kneeling on the floor, banging his head against the floor. No, 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 no. Anko glared at Hensuke. Do you know how much trouble you're in? That cat belongs to the fire daimyo's wife. She'll have your hide for this. Hensuke froze. Crap. Maybe this wasn't such a good idea after all. Tenten and Kurenai started clearing away all the tortoiseshell patterned fur, and Jiraiya clocked his apprentice upside the back of his head. Alright, listen up. I found out that Tsunade is coming into town to gamble and drink, like she does once a month. She'll be at the Black Leaf Casino from 8 p.m. till whenever they throw her out, so that's when we'll strike. Dismissed. Naruto waited until Neji, Hensuke, and Jiraiya had left, before closing and locking the door and closing the blinds. Stripping out of his dusty clothes, he beckoned to the trio of beautiful ninja babes that were his and his alone. As they fell into bed with him, he turned off the bedside lamp and the quartet immediately drifted into a dreamless slumber. The next morning, Naya, Tenten yawned as she woke. Stretching, she padded over to the windows, pulling back the blinds and threw open the panes of glass, letting cool air wash over her. Well, this is a fine how do ye do, miss, a voice said. Tenten looked down, and realized she was still. Kya, pervert, she screamed. Naruto was up in a flash, eyes flaming. Jiraiya, no peeking, he roared, diving out of the window and straight into the stranger's midriff. Oof. The pair fell from the sill, landing in a thick bush, unhurt. Naruto leapt up, a kunai in hand, only to be disarmed and sat back down again. The stranger smiled. Well, ain't you peppy this morning? Come on, spill your name. Naruto replied, Uzumaki Naruto, of the village hidden in the leaves. You. The tall young man nodded. So you're the one, eh? The name's Raz, of the Mayanaka clan, from Demon Country. I'm an S-rank Anbu operative, and I specialize in genjutsu. Naruto called for his bingo book, and found Raz, entry. Quote. I'm sorry, you want me to what now? Naruto exclaimed. Raz just stared at him, implacable. Naruto muttered, and I thought I was unpredictable. Well, can you do it? Make no mistakes, I do not ask for myself, but for my dear, sweet Kasumi. She is my love, and for her, I would gladly wade through an ocean of blood, and climb a mountain of skulls. I ask you again, get her in. Naruto started at the flinty stare from those cool dark eyes. I can. It'll be difficult, but I can. I just need you to do one thing. I'm going to talk to my sensei, but if he asks, you are not her boyfriend, you are her brother. You need to tell her that you are pretending to be her brother. She must act as if you two are not romantically together. Raz blinked. I agree, of course, but why the secrecy? My sensei and his apprentice are total pervs, but they'll do anything if a pretty woman's involved. Raz smiled in understanding. I see. Use Kasumi's feminine charms to guarantee her safety. HRRRMMM. I like it not, but needs must. Rising, he bowed slightly. I'll take you to meet my fair one, but first, he paused, staring meaningfully at the younger blonde. You might want to dress in clothing other than your boxers, my young friend. Shortly, Naruto and the girls were dressed, and, with Neji accompanying them, Raz led the way through the winding streets to the apartment he shared with his lover. Just be careful, she's an ex-kunoichi, so don't make too many sudden moves, K. Naruto and the others agreed, and the tall blonde from Demon Country pulled a key from his pocket. Turning to a door, he unlocked it, ushering the group inside. Who is it? Is that you, Raz? A voice called from one of the rooms. Yeah, it's me Kasumi, and I brought friends. A slender, Dark-haired girl of a similar age to Raz hurried out of the kitchen. Oh, hello, you guys. I'm Kasumi, and you've obviously met Raz, of course. Her green eyes flashed as she invited everyone to sit in the small living room, to discuss the plan. So, Raz told you that he wants us to move to Konoha, and that we need your help. This is true. My clan, the Akashi, comes from the land of waves, but Raz, family, the Mayanaka, are from demon country, and he is cursed by his blood. I won't tell you any more, but it is a terrible thing. We hope to come to the leaf to find a way to cure him, or at least control the curse. Konoha's third Hokage was sympathetic to our plight, but upon his death, we lost hope, until now. I overheard an old-looking man talking to a barmaid about bringing Tsunade Senju back as the fifth Hokage, and he mentioned you. Will you help us? Naruto nodded. I don't know how much use I can be, but I'll do my best, Ibeo. He declared, and everyone's sweat dropped. Is he always like this? Kasumi whispered to Anko. Yup, she replied, and I wouldn't have it any other way. The two shared a smile, and watched the blondes hugging and cheering. Raz followed the group back, and he and Naruto went off to find Jiraiya and his pervy apprentice. As the day turned to evening, the two blonde ninja found the pervy pair, already hiding in a bush outside the Black Leaf Casino, waiting for Tsunade to appear. Their plan was ruined when Naruto bellowed, "Oi! Pervy sage in training." Jiraiya growled, "Oh, my dear Kami, what?" Naruto introduced Raz, and the older teen explained the reason he wanted Jiraiya's help, minus informing them that Kasumi was his girlfriend, but instead claiming she was his sister. Jiraiya agreed without a moment's hesitation. Just as the rest of the Konoha contingent arrived and concealed themselves, Tsunade and her assistant, Shizune, strolled through the doors and into the casino. The next morning, Naruto, Neji, Raz, and pretty much everyone else, was pissed off. Tsunade had stayed in the damnable casino all night, and they'd all had to sleep in turns, still ensconced in the bush. A few minutes before sunrise, Tsunade staggered out, drunk as a skunk, supported by her friend. The Konoha nins followed them, out of Tanzaku, and along a path bordering a field. Shizune stopped. Shit. I left my bag in the bar, you stay here while I nip back and get it, okay? When Tsunade nodded, Shizune skipped back towards town, nearly catching the stalker brigade as she passed. A few moments later, the ground rumbled, and a familiar figure rose from the depths. Kukukuku, good morning, Tsunade, came a cold and reptilian voice. Orochimaru. Naruto snarled. I thought I'd finished him off, but it looks like snakes are related to cockroaches. Tsunade snapped to attention, her drunken sway stopping immediately. What do you want, Orochimaru? I heard you killed our sensei. Is this true? The snake Sanin smiled mirthlessly. Oh, it's true, alright, but I need you to help me. A young blonde hooligan managed to wound me, and the old man crippled my arms. Fix them for me, and I shall return your loved ones to you. I can bring them back. Tsunade trembled. Dan. And Nawaki. You bastard. Fine. You win. Tsunade grabbed Orochimaru's wrist and her left palm started glowing. Within a splintered second, 3 shurikens spun towards her, and she vaulted away. Kabuto dropped from a tree branch, adjusting his glasses. Lord Orochimaru, that wasn't healing chakra. She was preparing to attack you. Kukukuku. Kukukukukukukuku. It looks like I need to beat a healing session out of you, then. Tsunade stood her ground, but just as Kabuto knocked her out, he was body-checked by a blonde blur. Raz stood, sword in hand, with Jiraiya, Kurenai and Anko against Orochimaru. Neji, Tenten, and Naruto faced off against the Leaf Trader. The second, and much smaller, battle for the leaf had begun. Jiraiya lunged, but Orochimaru slithered aside, while spitting a few snakes from his mouth. While Anko and Kurenai amused themselves by stomping the reptiles into paste, Raz circled, drawing a short-bladed katana from a sheath on his back. Right, you scaly freak show, Let's see how well you fight with that monstrosity you call the Kusanagi, he growled, his blonde spikes falling across his face in a way that shaded his eyes menacingly. Across the clearing, Kabuto was having more trouble than he'd first anticipated. Not only did he have to keep his distance from the Hyuga brat, that girl with the stupid bun hair kept throwing things at him, and the Ninetales container used that pointless shadow clone jutsu over and over. If this battle was measured in bodies, Kabuto mused, then he'd have won after the 27th clone bit the dust. Unfortunately, by focusing in the blonde monkey-like boy, he'd let the Hyuga slip behind him. 8 trigrams, 128 palms. Neji recited, and then slammed his fists into Kabuto's gut with the force of a jackhammer. 2 palms, 4 palms, 8 palms, 16 palms, 32 palms, 64 palms, 128 palms. Kabuto fell, spitting out blood and saliva, before grinning. The wounds started to knit together, the bruises fading. Cellular activation, the glasses-wearing douche smirked, before Naruto lampooned him with a lump of wood. Snarling, Kabuto lashed out with his hand in a knife hand strike. The blonde Chunin fell to one knee, blood pouring from a deep cut across his chest. Tenten looked stunned. But how? He didn't use a kunai. Neji nodded. So, using a medical jutsu as a weapon. You sicken me. The chakra scalpel is not designed for inflicting deliberate injury, but you corrupted it. Is there no end to your perversion? Bastard. Neji began pummeling the gray-haired ninja with everything he had, not letting him prepare another strike. If Kabuto were to use that technique anymore, he could literally cut them to pieces. Neji. Duck. Neji dropped, and Naruto flipped over his friend's back and slammed a familiar ball of swirling chakra into Kabuto's torso. Rasengan. The leaf-missing nin flew gracefully through the air, ass first, ending his short journey by embracing a boulder with his spine. Even Kabuto's healing techniques could not prevent serious injury, and he lay there, groaning. Over with Jiraiya, Raz, and the leaf Kunoichi, the fight was still on, but only just. Anko couldn't even hit her old master, he knew her too well. Jiraiya had hit him several times, but never inflicted any real damage, and Kurenai was currently fighting off one of his genjutsu. The only one still fighting was Raz, meeting Orochimaru's sword strikes with blows of his own. The chimes of ringing steel rang throughout the small valley, echoing loudly. Raz vaulted over an ankle sweep, and lashed at the snake Sanin's neck. He managed to parry with the grass cutter, before stabbing it forwards rapidly. The swords met again, before Raz staggered back, clutching the hilt of his weapon, the blade lying shattered between them. Orochimaru swallowed his blade, chuckling. Cuckoo, not many can withstand me for so long, my young enemy. But now, it seems that our time together will be short. Regurgitating the sword again, he swept it in a cruel arc that looked set to remove his foe's head. Instead of ducking, Raz reached for the base of a nearby tree. Shadow Sword Jutsu. The darkness shed by the tree's branches writhed, and formed a pair of matched blades in Raz's hands. The swords shimmered in the early morning sun, but no light was reflected. Raz blocked the head-taker swipe, reprising with a back-handed cut that opened a wound on Orochimaru's shoulder. The Sanin gaped in surprise, blocking several follow-up strikes from the blades that nearly cut his face to the bone. Raz slammed the sword's point first into the earth, placing his hands together and forming a couple of hand signs, but saying nothing. A clone formed in a puff of black smoke, forming a shadowy figure hovering a foot above the ground, arms crossed over its chest, head bowed and eyes closed. As it touched down, the clone raised its head, opening its eyes. Orochimaru was briefly startled to see that the clone's eyes glowed blood red. His strange clone hunched over as large, black bat wings burst from its shoulders, and the smoke faded to reveal a second Raz, with grayish skin, those wings and eyes, fangs that protruded over the bottom lip, and long claws. Raz smiled. Demon clone jutsu, bitch. The clone pulled one of the swords from the ground, and Raz took up the other. The pair lunged forwards, covering the ground between them and the snake pervert in mere seconds. Orochimaru stabbed his sword into the clone's thigh, but instead of dispersing, the clone simply punched him in the face. Orochimaru cut out at his new tormentor, and succeeded in cutting off 3 fingers. The demon clone hissed in fury and pain, and then shrugged its shoulders, taking to the air. Raz leapt up, seized it by the ankles, and spun it round, hurling it down towards the slightly surprised legless lizard Nin. The clone skewered Orochimaru in the side, ripping its sword out in a gush of blood. Orochimaru coughed. Kabuto. Retreat. Kabuto struggled to his feet and Leaf teleported to his master's side. This isn't over yet, fools. When my lord Orochimaru regains his strength, we will have our revenge. So saying, the pair fled underground, tunneling away, but no one in the group thought that they'd seen the last of the scaly man whore and his young butt boy. Tsunade opened her eyes a crack. She heard the words before she saw the speaker. Hey, master, are you sure she's the legendary sucker? And how did she get that name? From giving epic BJs. Ah, who cares who she is, look at those tits. Think I'm gonna feel 'em. The moment a pair of hands clamped down on her capacious bosom, Tsunade's eyes flashed wide, and she punched Hensuke clean across the valley, embedding him halfway through a boulder. A muffled, "It was so worth it," could be faintly heard. Raz bowed. Lady Tsunade, they have come for you. It seems you are to become the next Hokage. Tsunade shook her head. A drunkard, a bad gambler, and a failed ninja. Surely you can find someone better. Naruto butted in. No way, Granny. You're coming back with us, and you're gonna be the 5th Hokage, believe it. Tsunade's eyes swiveled to glare at the impertinent blonde. Excuse me, just who the hell do you think you are? I said no, and I mean no. Panting, Shizune burst into the clearing. What's all the shouting about? Tsunade growled. These idiots think I should go back to Konoha and become the new Hokage. Shizune clapped her hands. Oh, great, I'd love to go back to Konoha. I left all my friends behind when I followed you, and I'm dying to see them again. Flustered, Tsunade groaned. I haven't said yes yet. Oh, fine. If you won't often leave me in peace, I might as well become the Hokage, but Jiraiya, I'm gonna ban your dirty books in Konoha for this, ya hear me? As the group set off to collect Kasumi, Jiraiya and Hensuke fell to their knees, weeping hysterically. The sound of their crying could be heard for several miles. Tsunade chuckled as she told everyone a funny story. And then, he pantsed me in front of my academy class, so I fed his hamster to the Inuzuka's nin dogs. Raz grinned, and cuffed her lightly on the shoulder. That story gets funnier every time, I swear. Kasumi giggled, her long black ponytail bobbing as she held her sides. Within the hour, they were ensconced in Naruto's suite, simply because it was the largest room. Naruto explained the situation, how Orochimaru had used the Cage's skin to infiltrate the leaf, and how he had recruited the village hidden in the sound to help invade. Tsunade's shoulders shook with fury as Naruto told her how the 3rd Hokage had fallen in battle. That snaky bastard, when I find him, I'll castrate him, then shove his so far down his own throat that his granny'll taste semen. Every male present shuddered, and cupped their hands over themselves protectively. Tsunade had sent Shizune to collect their belongings, and when she arrived, the whole squad headed back to Konoha, while Naruto told Tsunade about his army of girlfriends, while Neji tried to fend off Jiraiya and Hensuke from hearing too much. Needless to say, he failed miserably. As they walked, Kurenai couldn't help thinking back to the nights she'd spent in Naruto's bed, and how good he looked from behind, or from any direction, really, and her panties dampened immediately, clinging to her thighs as they brushed past each other with each step she took. The rubbing was making her horny, and the urge to something only grew when her poked out of its hood, stroked by the soft cotton of her knickers. Naruto spotted Kurenai lagging behind, and slowed to talk. Hey, what's up? You seem kinda distracted. Can I help? Kurenai grinned evilly to herself. She whispered in Naruto's ear, and he smirked. Hey, Naruto, Naruto, Raz called. Naruto and Kurenai appeared from behind a tree, and rejoined the group. Sorry, guys, we needed to take a leak. Raz grinned, and said, just let's get moving, okay? As they kept strolling down the path, the shadow clones of Naruto and Kurenai wondered, I wonder what the realists are doing right now. Oh, no, don't stop, keep going, keep going. Kurenai wailed, her hot core throbbing as Naruto plunged his stiff rod into her back pressing into a tree, the rough bark scratching her sensitive skin and leaving red lines on her buttocks. Harder, daddy, harder. Naruto complied, pumping into his woman like a man possessed, and almost pounding her into the mighty oak whose bark they were currently watering with Kurenai's juice. The quivering genjutsu mistress threw back her head, eyes rolling in their sockets, and screamed. Naruto, oh, Kami, Naruto oh. Naruto continued to hump his red-eyed babe, but he felt a bit left out. Kurenai, coming down from her orgasmic high, realized that she was the only one who'd got some release, and that it was her fault that Naruto was still hard inside her. She began contracting her vaginal walls rhythmically, squeezing and relaxing, while pressing her ample against Naruto's face and chest, until she felt the familiar pressure and throbbing inside her. Naruto was about to come, but he still had a second. He clasped his hands, and muttered, Kum balloon jutsu. With not a moment to spare. Kurenai squealed in her third orgasm, and this one was a real humdinger. She felt Naruto's seed pump into her womb, and keep pumping, and pumping. She looked down, and gasped. Her belly was swelling, bloating up like she'd swallowed a melon, and still growing. Kya, wah. Kurenai moaned, her swollen belly now unable to hold any more, and her stretched to its limits trying to hold in the flood of semen. She sank to her knees gasping, her distended belly forcing her legs apart, and panted heavily. Yua, ooh. Kurenai shuddered, and, with a final push, she sprayed all of Naruto's cum in an arc that soaked the ground in a fan shape for 15 meters. She slumped onto her side, and sank into unconsciousness. Naruto chuckled at Kurenai's enthusiasm, and picked her up bridal style. Leaping into a tree, he bounded in the general direction of Konoha, carrying his dead to the world girlfriend. He deliberately flared his chakra as he kicked off, trying to rouse Kurenai before they ran into their allies. On the road, my creator's been gone for a while, mused Cage Naruto. How long does a bit of nookie take? Hey, Naruto-kun, keep up, slowcoach. Tenten giggled, running back and clinging onto the clone's arm. She leaned into him, rubbing her cheek against his shoulder. The clone flushed, and sped up a little. Hurry up, me, Konoha, Naruto's estate, Hinata-chan, can you help me put the shopping away, please? Kurama asked from the front door, laden with bags. Hinata skipped downstairs, and grabbed a couple, and the two girls headed for the kitchen, chatting amicably, talking about the day Naruto was due back. The pair had plotted to celebrate their lover's return, with a party to end all parties. I can't wait, Kurama-chan. Naruto's home tonight, Hinata squealed, dashing in circles around the older girl. Kurama's tails flared and twisted, and she squealed too. I know, Nata-chan. I bought a few things. We can really surprise him, haha. A trickle of blood ran from the redhead's nose, and she grinned naughtily. Naruto, real one. Ah, Kurenai-chan. You woke up. Naruto hopped from the pine he was about to bound off, and placed his woman gently down. She kissed him, and squeezed his arm. As he led the way onto the road, Naruto watched from a safe spot as the rest of the group came towards them. Ducking into the bushes, Kurenai and the blonde teen switched places with the clones, and a few yards away, the faint pomp of dispel was muted sufficiently to draw no attention. The memories of the past few hours filtered in, and the pair joined the conversation that they hadn't really been a part of. No way, Neji. The Crimson Kunais are the best rock group on Earth. Naruto boasted. Neji grinned. Not so, bro. The best group are obviously Steel Chain. Those guys rule. Neji had secretly cherished a taste in rock music, and now, he was allowed to express it. Like, that one track, where Kyūki Seto, the lead guitar, was all like, Dana na 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 na. Friao. Daka daka daka. That was the bomb jutsu. Naruto snorted. Oh, Kyūki-san's hot, but she's out of her league when compared to the Crimson Kunai's lead. Tanako Izuyura is so much cuter. And her voice. That thing is an orgasm in vocal form. Neji shrugged. I will admit she has a great voice, let's just agree to disagree. Naruto high-fived his white-eyed friend, and the two burst out laughing, Neji because he was happy, and Naruto with delight at the change in his former adversary. The group made its steady way home, with Naruto completely unaware of what lay ahead. Come on, girl, what are you doing in Konoha, and why do you want to speak to Naruto so badly? You need to tell us, or we can't help you. And exasperated Jonin pleaded. The red-headed teen ignored him. She hadn't moved or spoke for 3 straight days. No sign that she was still alive, except for the steady rise and fall of her chest. Her mouth opened, and in a voice husky from disuse, croaked, Naruto. Konoha, Leaf Gate. Naruto and the rest of his group reached the gates of Konoha, and Raz and Kasumi stared at the high walls and thick gates. The eternal Chunin, Azumo and Katetsu, smiled as they stamped Naruto's pass, then Anko's Tenten's and finally Neji's. Jiraiya and Hensuke had opted to part ways with the group, instead heading off to locate Orochimaru's base of operations. The other 4 were under escort, so were permitted entry, seeing as Tsunade was the new Hokage. While Shizune and her mistress were led to the Hokage Tower, a young genin came panting up, and seized Naruto's sleeve. Nah, Naruto. Ibiki-san needs you. Come quick, he shouted. Naruto turned and looked at his friends, and told them to go on home. Following the genin, he ran for the INT building. Inside the interrogation and torture unit, Naruto was led down a flight of stairs, along a path, down more stairs, and into a small antechamber, where Ibiki waited. Naruto, it's good to see you again. We have a young lady in here, but she has resisted everything we can do to her, and she only wants one thing you. She refuses to talk to anyone else. Naruto nodded. Let me go in. Is she dangerous? Ibiki shook his head. She looks like that sand nin, Gaara. Maybe a cousin. Dresses like him, but without the gourd. She's made no aggressive moves, so you should be fine. Naruto nodded again, and Ibiki unlocked the door, and let the blonde in. Sitting in a wooden chair, a girl who looked very much like Gaara stared at him, before bursting into tears. Naruto. She threw herself on him, clutching at his chest and screaming. Naruto just held the sobbing girl, until she calmed down. When she looked up at him, through black ringed turquoise eyes, he asked gently, Gaara. It is you, isn't it? The girl started. How did you know, Naruto? He smiled. The only girl who looks like Gaara could only be Gaara. Did you learn my jutsu? Gaara shook her head. No, I am a girl. I was hit by an unidentified technique. Shukaku took the brunt, and was almost destroyed. In her last effort to protect me, she changed my form permanently. I am now as you see me. I changed my name, and I'm now Akane no Sabaku, youngest daughter of the Kazekage. She blushed, and looked down. And, I also, want to stay, with you, so please, take me on as one of your girlfriends. I heard about you, that you need to restore 2 clans, and I'm alone. My father was killed by Orochimaru, and my siblings are in hiding. Please. She looked up at Naruto, her shoulder-length pale red hair shining softly. Naruto stroked Akane's head, and kissed her on the lips. Sure thing, Akane-chan. You can always stay with me, as long as you don't mind sharing, that is. She looked up at Naruto, her shoulder-length pale red hair shining softly. Naruto stroked Akane's head, and kissed her on the lips. Sure thing, Akane-chan. You can always stay with me, as long as you don't mind sharing, that is. Akane no Sabaku lay in Naruto's arms, and sobbed, tears spilling from her ice-blue eyes, and she buried her face in his chest. Thank you, she wailed, raining kisses on his cheeks and face. Naruto smiled up at the crying girl, and held her close, before lifting her into his arms, bridal style, and carrying her out of the door. Ibiki stared at him in shock. What? Where are you going with her? We need. Naruto cut him off. She's staying with me. You can ask her all the questions you like when she's settled in. Don't worry, I can handle her. Later, Ibiki-san. Leaving a flabbergasted Ibiki behind, Naruto carried Akane out of the dank, murky building, and started roof hopping to get her safely back to his estate. Naruto's estate. Akane, I have a question. Is Shukaku still alive, inside your seal? Akane shook her head. Shukaku-chan gave up her life to save mine. Sure, she'll reform in a century or two, but I miss her. She wrapped her arms around her knees and sniffled. Naruto crouched next to her and laid his arm over her shoulders. Stroking her back, he stayed like that for a few minutes, and then helped Akane up. Come on, Akane-chan, let's go eat, and I'll tell the girls about you, if you're okay with that. Akane nodded, and held her new boyfriend's hand, and he led the way to the large, well-lit kitchen, seating her next to him. Kurama bustled in, carrying plates and chopsticks, but nearly dropped them in surprise. Naruto-kun, you're home. The others just arrived. And, wait a minute, who's that adorable cutie beside you? Naruto chuckled, and squeezed Akane's hand. I promise, I'll explain everything, but later, when we're all sat down. Trust me, you guys are gonna want to sit, when you hear what I've gotta tell you. As the other girls filed in, Naruto let them ask questions, but only replied, you'll see. When everyone was seated, Naruto raised a hand for quiet. Okay, does everyone here remember Gaara of the Bloody Sand? Everyone nodded, some fearful, others defiant. Well, Gaara is here, now, with us, but not as you would know. When an unknown jutsu was fired at him, the demon inside Gaara, Shukaku, the one-tailed raccoon, used her power to prevent Gaara's death. Unfortunately, the effort was too much for Shukaku, and she dissipated. Kurama covered her mouth and sniffed, and the other girls looked for Gaara, but Naruto steamrolled on. Now, I know you're all dying to know who our guest is, so let me introduce, Akane no Sabaku, the Sand Siren. This cutie is the new form and face of Gaara, and she's my newest girlfriend. Be nice to her, because she's very delicate right now, and I don't want anyone bringing up the past in order to wind her up. She's one of us now, so let's all get along, okay? Yes, Naruto-kun. All the girls chorused, and they all came up, one by one, and gave both Naruto and Akane a warm, tender hug. Akane smiled, and began eating ravenously, almost like Naruto did every day. The group burst out laughing when she paused, covered her mouth, and swallowed a huge mouthful. Gee Gomen, I haven't eaten in a few days, I lost control. She squeaked, blushing adorably. Naruto kissed her cheek, and rubbed her back, saying, it's fine. Eat as much as you like. I'm sure Kurama-chan made plenty. I mean, I eat like that too. Akane resumed eating, but in a more ladylike fashion, before filling her bowl again. Akane-chan, would you like a bath? Naruto offered, and the redhead nodded. Okay, then I'll show you where to go. The taller blonde nodded. He stood, took her hand, and led her out of the house, around to the forge, and past it. A few yards on, he turned, and pointed to a steaming pool. See that? That's the hot spring. Take a dip, if you like. Turning to leave, Naruto felt a gentle tug on his sleeve. Akane was gripping him, holding him back nervously. Naruto, don't go. Naruto's heart melted at the sight of the sniffling girl before him, and nodded. Okay, my sand siren. I'll stay. He turned his back, and took off his sandals, dipping his feet into the hot water. Akane wiped her nose, and then shrugged off her outer clothing, then her shirt and leggings. Standing there, and pale, Akane no Sabaku glided over, kneeling down, and tested the steaming liquid. Finding the temperature pleasing, she swiveled her hips, sliding into the water with a sigh of content. Naruto watched in amusement, before he blushed crimson. One of the new girls small rose out of the water, the pink and firm. Akane-chan. Naruto spluttered. She answered, looking drowsily at him. One of your is showing, he coughed. Akane looked down, and then shrugged. I don't mind. Letting my boyfriend see my body is what a girlfriend does, right? Naruto reached out, and then pulled back, slightly, watching Akane's reaction. Akane watched him, and then understood. Oh, you want to touch them? She guessed, and Naruto nodded, nervously watching her reaction. Akane shrugged again, setting her small chest moving, then leaned forwards, letting Naruto's hand cup her right. Naruto, she moaned quietly, still unused to the senses that accompanied her new form. Naruto's index finger gently circled the, and Akane gasped, tossing her head back. Wow, you're really sensitive, huh? Naruto pushed the teat into her, and Akane whimpered louder, shifting in the warm water. Naruto stopped fondling Akane, and quickly stripped off his orange jumpsuit, before slipping into the pool behind her, pulling the aroused girl onto his lap. Akane shuddered in pleasure at the skin-to-skin contact, and saw Naruto's hand rise up to grip her again, stifling a squeal as she felt the lightest touch of his fingers between her thighs. She clamped her knees together, but the stoking felt so good, her mind went blank as a single finger opened her up and slid inside her. Ah! Naruto! Akane screamed, and the blonde felt a gush of fluid over his finger. Akane had come, for the first time as a girl, and she was hooked. Slumping back against the boy's broad chest, Akane snuggled up to him, until he shook her awake, and took her to bed. Next day, Konoha Market Plaza. Naruto, Akane, Tenten, Anko, Kurenai, and Kurama were out exploring the weekly market, browsing happily through the many stalls. Neji and Hinata were showing Raz and his girlfriend Kasumi around, helping them find a place. No one noticed the strange figure watching the blonde's party, as they wandered aimlessly around. Everyone else saw the being in the black cloak with red clouds on it and an orange swirly mask, but assumed he was a performing artist of some kind. As the stranger watched, he saw a boy approach Naruto, and overheard the conversation. Hey! Sai called cheerfully. Naruto turned and responded, oh, hey Sai. Buying some more ink? Sai nodded. Yes, I'm going on a mission tonight, but my supplies are low, and I can only use ink of a certain quality, or my jutsu will fail. He gestured to the girls. Why do you surround yourself with other women? Naruto flipped him off, but the masked being had already disappeared, muttering, oh, yes. Leader Sama will want to know what I've discovered. Toba's a good boy. Akatsuki hideout. Leader Sama. Leader Sama. Toby stumbled into the main chamber, disrupting a meeting. Pain sighed, and stood. Yes, Toby. Toby bowed several times, and then screamed, the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki as a girl. Everyone gasped, then began rushing around. What? Where did you see her? Pain bellowed, and Toby pointed. Just a few miles away, running that way. Kisame yelled, good boy, Toby. And the masked fool began dancing like an idiot, cheering about being a good boy. Konoha. Naruto had decided to go on a trip, taking the scroll his parents had left him, to go to the village his mother had come from. Following the map was easy, and he made good time. As he strolled through a leafy forest, he heard a scream. Uzumaki. Naruto barrage. Several loud crunches were next, and the blonde Gaki stealthed over, gasping in shock at what he saw, and then ducking, as a kunai slammed into the tree next to him. Get out here, so I can kick your two. A loud, feminine voice commanded, and Naruto stood, raising his hands. Hold on. I'm not after you, I just heard the fight. The girl standing before him looked like his sexy jutsu form. What? You look like my jutsu form. They chorused at once. Naruto stopped speaking, and the girl continued, you look just like my hunky jutsu form. Clasping her hands, she called, hunky jutsu, and transformed into a fit, bare-chested version of Naruto, with a plume of smoke covering his crotch. Releasing the jutsu, she said, so, I look like your technique, huh, let's see it. Naruto shrugged, and placed his hands together. Sexy jutsu. An identical clone of the girl appeared, and blew a kiss, before dispersing into Naruto again. Naruto shook the girl's hand, and asked her name. It's Naruko Uzumaki, and I was on my way to Konoha to visit my cousin, Naruto. Do you know him? Naruto burst out laughing, and pointed to himself. That's me. I'm Naruto. Naruko gawped at him, then grabbed him in a hug and kissed him full on the lips. Naruto. Cousin, I've found you. She began peppering her younger relation with kisses, and then explained. My aunt died a few weeks ago, but told me of a cousin, living in the land of fire, in Konoha. She sent me to be your wife, so we can restore our clan. Kissing him again, she linked hands with him, and leaned into him, letting Naruto take charge. So, you're going to find Aunt Kushina's old home, huh? And you have several girlfriends? Okay, just as long as you don't mind another. Naruko giggled, and groped her cousin's crotch. TTOOOOOBBBBEE. Kisame roared, stomping into the Akatsuki lair, before slamming Samahata into the wall. Pain sighed. Toby got it wrong, didn't he? He asked, shaking his head in despair. Toby was still dancing in circles, singing, good boy, Toba's a good boy. Kisame punched the table, and screamed, Toba's not a good boy. Toby stopped dancing, moaned, AAAAWWW, and slumped in a huddle in the corner. Konoha, Raz and Kasumi's house. Raz. Yo, buddy. Tsunade-sama needs you, she's got an assignment for you, if you're not too busy. Kakashi Hatake called into the apartment that Raz had rented with his girlfriend. Raz stuck his head out from behind a large crate, which he was currently heaving across the floor. Sure thing, Kakashi-san, just gimme a moment, he tugged, and the crate slid another foot. Kakashi leaned against the box, and it slid further, as the two ninja put their backs into it. Raz stopped pulling once the box was positioned in the center of the room, before he punched it with a fist. The box splintered, and a large, intimidating assortment of weapons fell from a stand, now kind of buckled after the blow. Kakashi picked up a lethal-looking short sword, then dropped it, as a snake's head oozed out of the pommel, before withdrawing when he let go. Yeah, don't touch the kit, it's got a pretty potent little curse on the stuff, and I'm gonna break it, but it can wait. You said Tsunade-san had a mission. Kakashi nodded. She asked me to come get you. Oh, about 2 hours ago, actually. You're late. Better hurry. He gave his usual eye smile, _, then leaf shinned away. Kakashi. Raz howled, and shadows engulfed him. When they drew back, he was gone. Land of Grass. Is this Orochimaru's lair? Hensuke raised an eyebrow. Jiraiya nodded. Yes, Orochimaru is most cunning, I would never have expected that he'd hide in a sewer. Hensuke hefted the bag of spy cameras, and slipped off. Land of Waves, Ouskirts of the ruined village of Uzushiage-kur. Come on, cuz. Just a bit further. Naruko exhorted her younger relative on to even greater efforts, as the duo came to a rest on a rocky plain. No, not rocks, the ruins of houses and shops. Naruto stared around, and saw that not a single structure was unscathed, and most were overgrown, and dead. Holy shit, what happened? Naruto gasped. Naruko put her arm around him, and told him. The village was prosperous, because of its talent for sealing and binding jutsu. Too skillful, the village was destroyed during the Third Shinobi World War. Naruto sniffed, and wiped his eyes, before looking around. What are you looking for, Naru-kun? His cousin asked curiously. The guardian stones. My mom said they'd teach me something, if I kissed someone I loved when they were nearby. Naruto blushed, and took his hand. Let's go find them, then. Land of Grass. Master Jiraiya. I'm back. The cameras are in place. Hensuke panted, appearing at Jiraiya's side. Jiraiya pulled a small computer from a scroll, and started skipping through channels, looking for anything he could use to stop the perverted snake Sanin. Stopping on the first one that revealed the pale douche, Jiraiya stopped, stared, and then screamed in horror. On the screen, in inglorious technicolor, Orochimaru was showering, and singing, I Will Survive, with hip motions. Ah, oh, Kami, it's hideous. Burn it. Beat the images out of my eyes. I can't see, I'm bliiiiinned, bleend. Hensuke facepalmed himself, then reached into another bag, pulling out blocks of explosive clay. Blow it up, master. Jiraiya wiped his eyes, rammed a kunai through the screen, and growled, oh, yes. Blow it up, now. Blow it all uuuppp. B bracka boom mmmmmm. A cloud of smoke plumed over the land of grass, and maniacal laughter echoed through the valleys. Hokage Tower. Raz, you are to go and find Naruto, and bring him back. We need him for a mission, but he appears to have left the village. Azumo and Katetsu saw him leaving, heading for Wave. You accomplish this, and you'll get yourself an Anbu rank. Dismissed. Tsunade turned back to the stacks of paper filling her new office, and slammed her head on the desk. Damn you, Naruto, she moaned. Naruto. Are these the stones? Naruto called, tugging her cousin over to a half-collapsed ring of boulders. Staring into his eyes, she kissed him on the lips, then waited. After a minute, a faint grinding noise echoed upwards, and a slab of stone, with swampy water and silt pouring off, rose up, revealing a dark, earthy hole. Just as Naruto bent down to look in, a dark shape fountained out of the water behind him, slipped on a slime-covered rock, and cannoned into him, knocking him through the hole, falling after him, and followed by a furious Naruto. Get back here, assassin. Murderer. Just as Naruto bent down to look in, a dark shape fountained out of the water behind him, slipped on a slime-covered rock, and cannoned into him, knocking him through the hole, falling after him, and followed by a furious Naruto. Get back here, assassin. Murderer. In. Erg, owie, moaned the mysterious person, after Naruto and his cousin had beaten the living daylights out of him. His swirly orange mask cracked. Toby looked pretty pathetic, all tied up and concussed. Toba's a good boy. Wump. He fell over backwards, out cold. Raz showed up 2 minutes later, and sweat dropped. This idiot tried to hug you. Naruto nodded. I think he's just high. Or really stupid. Take him back to Konoha for me. I gotta find something down here. Tell Granny I'm sorry for leaving, okay. Raz nodded, and picked up the unconscious Akatsuki member. Toby mumbled, the fluffy ones taste better. Naruto and Naruto explored the tunnel. It led to a small room, with shelves in it. The shelves were filled with scrolls and paintings. The pair sealed everything into some storage scrolls, and looked around to make sure they had everything. The room was bare, so they headed out and up through the hole, which ground shut behind them, hiding the secret forever. On the tree hop back to Konoha, the blonde boy was silent as he bounced. Naruto let him think, and he brooded for most of the journey, his mood lightening the closer he got to home. When he led her to the huge doors of his compound, he kissed Naruto quickly, and then opened the door, setting a bell to chiming. In seconds, he was glomped by Hinata, Anko, Kurama, Tenten, Kurenai, and Akane, who hugged and kissed the blonde stud as much as they could. He smiled and kissed them, one by one. Kurenai blushed. Daddy, I'm pregnant. Naruto's eyes widened and he fell over in shock. Pregnant. She nodded, shyly smiling at him. He bounded to his feet and hugged her. Yahoo! Now I just need to knock up Hinata, Anko, Naruto, Akane, Kurama, and Tenten. The other girls squealed delightedly, before dragging him into the Namikaze mansion. For the rest of the day, moans, screams, cries of bliss, and other erotic noises could be heard. Inside the mansion. Oh yes. Harder. More. Anko moaned as Naruto took her from behind. Groping her, she licked at Kurama's drooling snatch, while Kurama fingered Tenten and Naruto while sucking Hinata's. Akane was while she sucked on Kurenai's left. Kurenai rested after her turn, and Anko screamed as Naruto flooded her fertile womb with cum. Kurama gasped. That's it. She's carrying. Anko climbed off, giving her place to Hinata, who shuddered as Naruto's pushed all the way into her. Moaning in bliss, she pressed his hands to her large, milky. Squeeze them, please. Naruto complied, kneading his Hyuga girlfriend's firm titties while he reshaped her. Creating a shadow clone, Naruto began making out with it, the twin blondes groping and fondling the others in butts. The clone knelt and started licking Naruto out as everyone watched in awe. Naruto's second orgasm flooded Hinata, her belly swelling as she held every drop of his potent semen, moaning in her own release. When Naruto pulled out, she pressed her hands to her, trying to keep his cum inside her. Kurama moaned. Hinata's done. Anko, Kurenai, and Hinata squealed and hugged, as Tenten pushed Naruto down and mounted him. Me. Give me your cum and make me a baby. Naruto grinned up at the bun-haired Kunoichi, slamming his length into her and making her moan loudly. Ah yes. Gimme more, gimme more, gimme more. Tenten howled, her stretched around Naruto's thick shaft as she bounced on his lap, convulsing as she came, spattering her juices over the totem of fertility that was currently breaking her cunt. Naruto whimpered in release as her clone brought her to a powerful orgasm, just as Tenten's uterus was filled to bursting point with Naruto's hot cum, her belly heaving as it bloated. Kurama again announced a pregnancy. Naruto moaned. Ah man. I'm exhausted. Naruto, Akane, and Kurama pounced on him. No rest for you yet. 2 hours later. Naruto sagged, utterly drained. He was spent. He didn't even know if he could ever get another erection. All of his girls were now carrying, and he sighed. I bet Raz never has to deal with this. Raz's house. After receiving his Anbu rank from Tsunade, Raz was currently engaged in a staring contest with Toby. The masked nin was merely giggling about nothing sane. Raz turned to Inoichi. You sure you can do that? If I make a clone, you can put the bad deeds and Akatsuki memories into it, then we can let this moron go. The Yamanaka nodded, also sick of the mumbling twit. Good. Let's go. Raz formed a blank shadow clone, and Inoichi began the transfer, barely resisting the temptation to melt the brain of this total dweeb. Will Naruto ever recover? Has Orochimaru found a new home? Will anyone buy me some sake? None of these questions and more, next time, on NNH. I'm serious about the sake, though. I'm thirsty.